There was a time where I didn't know who I was, who I wanted to be, and in the process of cultivating myself into that person, I found Eastern philosophy and martial arts, and I dove head first. I started studying the teachings of Lao Tzu and Sun Tzu and Miyamoto Musashi. I started teaching myself the sword. I went to kung fu schools to learn how to discipline my mind and body. And as I traveled and studied and engaged, I still felt like a guest. I felt that I was being given access to these spaces and community because of some level of skill or potential that I had. But I didn't ever feel like it was mine. I always felt like it was being loaned to me. And that at any time, through some perceived disrespect or some mistake that I made, all that I had built up, all the momentum could be stripped away from me and I'd be left bare, alone, once again. And this feeling of being cast aside was further exacerbated when I realized that these practices of martial arts that I'd fallen in love with from movies and anime and TV shows and Power Rangers had nothing to do with the moves and everything to do with the cultural context of the places they come from. Kung Fu cinema, especially from Bruce Lee, Jet Li, and Jackie Chan, depicts a reclamation of Chinese identity that had been under attack for over 300 years from different invaders and Western powers colonizing the area. And with the history of Japan and Korea especially, it gets complicated real quick. So imagine my surprise when I learned of African martial arts, especially martial arts of the African diaspora. Especially that there were martial arts that came from the exact places that my family and my friends come from. Galinda in Trinidad, Esgrima con Machete in Colombia, Capoeira from Brazil, and for the purposes of today's conversation, Tire Machete, called emptying your cup, where in order to truly learn, you have to let go of what you have experienced from life, sometimes even the feelings from outside of the places you are practicing, so that you can receive all that the teacher has to impart to you. And that can be an especially difficult practice for me because my entire sense of safety and identity comes from my training, comes from my experience, and to let that go leaves me feeling naked and exposed. What further compounds the power of Tire Machete is its emphasis on defense. I've practiced numerous weapon systems where attack and defense become ambiguous and we just flow into the next move thoughtlessly. I've had a sword and shield just crashing into my opponent until their defense eventually broke. But I've never practiced an art where the entire game is how best you can defend. Shifting my body into these strange positions, going low and high, not to attack but to observe. It's an art steeped in tradition where we pass a bottle of rum and pour libations to the ancestors. So if you have the opportunity, if you're interested in arts of the diaspora, martial arts at all, movement arts at all, I definitely recommend looking into Tire Machete. Not because you need to become some machete fencing Jedi, but because the experience could transform your perspective. I look forward to being able to practice this art in its birthplace. And until then, I'm exceedingly grateful to Mike and Reggie for sharing this art with the world, to Cultural Capital Haiti, the nonprofit, for giving directly to the people that this art comes from, and to the Historical African Martial Arts Association for making sure that arts of the continent and diaspora are properly recognized and vetted and studied and maintained and curated so that we can understand them and experience them better. If you have any questions or commentary regarding African martial arts, arts of the diaspora, or anything else, feel free to drop a comment. I recommend following these pages. They're amazing resources. And I hope y'all have a great day. Peace.